Isn't that awesome? Yeah. Well, good morning. If we haven't met yet, my name is Mark. I'm one of the pastors here, and I have the privilege of launching a brand new series for our community today. And I want to start with a question. Don't raise your hands. Always have to say that. Are you a New Year's resolutions person? Because all the people who are would happily raise their hands and wave them, right? Are you a New Year's resolution kind of people? Right? Or, maybe you're here today and you're not a New Year's resolution person. Maybe you're feeling guilty that you haven't even thought through your goals for 2024. Maybe you're feeling behind. Maybe you're feeling unmotivated. Maybe you get discouraged every time you scroll through social media. It feels like everyone is posting about their goals, their new habits and all these different things. I want to give you some good news if you don't have any goals for 2024 yet or don't plan on having any. Stats are that 92% of New Year's resolutions fail. That's right. Every one of those posts that you see, the new goals, the new rhythms, the new habits that those people have, 9 out of 10 of them are going to fail. That's right. Every single 9 out of 10. You're welcome. Don't you feel a little bit better of your lack of drive? You're in the exact same place that 92% of your motivated peers are going to be in a couple weeks, and you didn't have to buy a gym membership to get there. You're welcome. But in all seriousness, while some of you may use this time to set goals and to make plans, and some may not, here's what I think most of us have in common. Most of us, whether we'd call ourselves driven, or maybe you define yourself more as contemplative, whether you're setting goals or whether your goal is no more goals, we all probably have a way of at least finishing these few sentences right here. I need to, I want to, I should probably, others wish I would. Don't we all kind of probably have some ways that we could fill in some of those blanks? You might identify with a sense of need. Maybe you feel like you need to get healthy physically or financially. You need to start a savings account or a retirement plan or a kid's, education plan. Maybe there's a want that you have relationally. You want to pursue a relationship, or you want to invest more in a relationship you already have. Or maybe, if you're honest, you want to get out of a relationship. Maybe there are some shoulds that you have going on in your life and you're starting to feel them. Maybe you're in high school and you're starting to think, I should probably start thinking about my career and post-secondary or work or apprenticeship. I should maybe get a part-time job. Maybe you feel that a little bit. Or maybe you feel the pressure of everyone else's desires for your life. What others wish you would do. I'm sure you have some of those. Maybe they're teachers in your life, professors, your boss, your parents, your spouse, your kids. There are a million ways to finish these sentences, and if you're a person of faith, there's probably a few more things that you feel that you need to do. And often they're guilt-driven. I need to go to church more. I want to read my Bible more. I should probably pray more or give more or serve more. Some, maybe you're in a season of looking back and realizing so much of all these weights that you've carried over the years were just religious performance. Just doing what others expected. But honestly, most of us don't have a shortage of things to fill those statements in with. And in response, we probably, depending on our temperament and our life experience, have a few different responses. Some of us make goals, we sleep less, we drink more coffee, and we get after it. Others of us, we feel overwhelmed by the list of things to do. Maybe you feel paralysis, maybe you feel a little frozen. There's so much to do, and maybe you do little or nothing. For some, maybe the overwhelm leads towards unhealthy or destructive habits as a coping mechanism for the overwhelm. Maybe you can feel like you never can get your priorities or get to your priorities because of all the other demands that everybody else seems to have for your life. Youth, I'm so glad you're here this month in the service. Some of you are serving in our sound and tech booth. I couldn't be happier that you're joining us because statistics tell us it's so much harder for you than it was for us growing up. You have access to so much technology, which means that you have the most amount of options of any generation thrown in front of you all the time. There's a constant flurry of information, options, causes that long for your attention. You're busier. You have more extracurricular than previous generations. Stats tell us that's one of the reasons why you sleep less than any other generation before. There's so much coming at our young people, and it's hard to navigate all these demands of life. But the thing that we all have in common, whether you're in middle school or much older, there's no shortage of things vying for our attention, no shortage of things to do, causes to get behind, things expected of us, no shortages of messages of what we should prioritize or how we should spend our money or what we should stop doing or what we should start doing. And the thing that is often hard is figuring out how to navigate all these options. And then the disagreements that come with the other people in our life who maybe have different values and wish we would prioritize other options. Here's the good news. I'm not here to tell you what to do, and that's probably good because there's enough people in my line of work telling people what to do. You don't need one more. I'm not here to add anything to your to-do list. Whether you're going after it or you're feeling frozen or you're making space for rest, I'm not going to do that. But I will offer something for all of us. And what I'd love to offer is a filter, a tool, a lens. You call it a guiding light from Jesus, to help you navigate all the demands around you, all the pressure at work and home, all the disagreements and mismatched values and demands on your time and energy and priorities and money. This filter will help you dig through the clutter and help you figure out and decide what you should focus on and maybe what you shouldn't focus on this year. This filter is a question, and this question has been honestly a game changer in my life, Trifina's life, so many of our friends and peers and colleagues' lives, and I'm excited to share it with you in this series. And so if you're up for that quest, we're going to be going to John chapter 13, verse 34 and 35 today, just 2 verses. It's New Year, you got a lot on your plate, so I figured we'd keep it simple. And the context, if you're new to Bible reading, as you're kind of finding that passage, but don't worry, it's going to be on the screen, is that Jesus has been teaching and challenging for years now the existing norms. He's redefining faith. He is frustrating the religious elites, and he's drawing in the common folk. People who were nothing like Jesus just continue to be drawn to Jesus. And then he makes this statement, this famous statement. He says this, verse 34, "A new command I give you." Now, a little context, okay? The people he's speaking to, many of them Jews, they had over 600 plus laws that they followed, okay? Like, they had commands. As one author said, they needed a new command like they needed a hole in the head. Like, they were not short on commands. Nobody woke up that morning like, can someone give us another command? Like, we don't have enough. That was not a problem, right? So Jesus is like, a new command I give you. Nobody's jumping for joy. Nobody's exciting. Ready for the big reveal on Jesus' new command? He says this, "A new command I give you, love one another." It's like, that's the big one, Jesus? That's it, right? Like, we had that in kindergarten. What's the big deal, right? Sounds like a pop song, sounds loosey-goosey, love, love, love. It's so generic, and I gotta be honest, I tell couples all the time when they're getting ready to get married, you know, they're about to stand on the stage in front of hundreds of their friends and make all these vows about love, and I'm like, you need to understand what you mean by the word love, because we just throw that word around. I love my wife, which sounds great. I also love all dressed chips and aged cheddar mixed together. See what happens? It's like, just to be honest, when someone says they love you, just listen to what else they love, okay? That word needs some descriptors added to it. Otherwise, it's just a word. So Jesus doesn't just say love one another. He adds some descriptors. He explains what he means when he says love one another. He says this, "As I have loved you, so you must love one another." So let's put ourselves in the story. Jesus is speaking to people who've been following along, who've been listening to his disciples. So imagine their head game. Imagine them actually processing these words. They've actually met him, heard him speak. They've actually been cared for by him. Think about some of the disciples. You got Matthew. Matthew's a tax collector, right? Like, get in that mindset for a second. He's one of the 12 disciples. But remember, tax collectors, little history lesson. You got the Romans. They're the occupying force in the region. And then instead of collecting taxes themselves, they would take someone from the occupied community and they'd say, come, you're going to be a tax collector. And they would make them work for them. And that person would be seen as a traitor because they're now collecting taxes from their family and their friends and their relatives and giving it to the Romans. And then on top of that, if that wasn't bad enough, they're also taking a lot off the top was often understood of what a tax collector was. So to say that person's a tax collector was it was despicable. Nobody wanted to associate with tax collectors. And Matthew, one of Jesus' disciples, is a tax collector. And what did Jesus do to Matthew? He welcomed him. He showed him compassion and forgiveness and worthiness and love. He's saying, love others as I've loved you, Matthew. There's another disciple. His name is Nathaniel. Remember Nathaniel? He's the disciple who, when he was first told about Jesus and Jesus being from Nazareth, he was like, Nazareth? Nazareth? Can anything good come from Nazareth? I mean, imagine being Jesus, right? You're picking your 12 disciples and it's like, you're just, this Nathaniel was like, aren't you the one who like dissed my entire family and all my friends in my neighborhood the first time that you heard about me? Why don't you come be one of my disciples? Loved him, showed grace and compassion and forgiveness and welcomed him in as part of his family. And countless other examples would be coming to mind for them of the ways that Jesus had loved them, loved the marginalized, loved strangers, loved enemies, and so on. And not to mention, because we have the beauty of hindsight, we know how the story ends. At the end of the story, soon Jesus would love with his whole life, that he would actually die on a cross for the sake of love. So talk about giving that line, love as I have loved you, some teeth, more weight. He says, as I have loved you, so you must love one another. Now, that's great. That's awesome. This new command is a powerful one. But then Jesus does something that us modern people reading the English translation, we miss. Okay, you should highlight this next verse in your Bible, specifically the second word. He says this in verse 35. By this, everyone will know that you're my disciples if you love one another. Circle, highlight, underline the word this. It's really important, okay? Speaking in terms of grammar, does anyone know what that is in the original language? Okay, it's a demonstrative pronoun. Anyone know what a demonstrative pronoun is? It's okay, I didn't know either. I had to Google it. It's used to point to something specific. And in this case, it's a singular demonstrative pronoun. As in, this and this alone is the way that everyone will know that we love Jesus. Just think, okay? He's speaking to people who have all kinds of ways of identifying themselves as worshipers of God, okay? They had over 600 laws that they used to separate themselves from others. It's like, no, we follow the code and they don't. That's how we know that we worship our God and they don't. They circumcised their sons on the 8th day as a sign of which God they worshiped. They Sabbath and they practice a whole bunch of holy meals and holy days and holy celebrations and so on to show who they worship. They all showed the world who they worshiped. They'd be like, what do you mean this one thing? Just one thing is all that matters? What about the covenant? What about all the rules? This was brand new. Jesus was saying to them, the new identifying mark is not rule following or law abiding or law enforcing. It isn't the sacrifices or worship attendance or even the little snip that for 1,500 years has been assigned to the world of who we worship. The new identifying mark of a Jesus follower is how you love. How we love says who we follow. How we love identifies us with Jesus. For us modern people, it means how we love, not how we vote, identifies us with Jesus. How we love, not where we go to church, identifies us with Jesus. How we love, not how much time you spend in prayer or holding your hands high in worship, identifies us with Jesus. Jesus says the thing that matters, the one command that counts is to love as Jesus has loved you. Now, if you grew up in church like me, your alarm bells are going off right now, right? You're thinking, wait. What does that mean, right? And did he just say, you're thinking like, so wait, what are you saying prayer doesn't matter or worship doesn't matter? Mark, are you saying like none of this matters? Just to be clear, I'm not saying anything. Jesus said this. Remember, I didn't even know what a singular demonstrative pronoun was until I had Googled it. I'm not even the one who said, by this, everyone will know that you are my disciples. Jesus did. Here's the point. This is just the intro to the series. If you're expecting an answer to all those questions in one sermon, your standards are too high, at least for me. Robin could probably knock it out of the park in one Sunday. You got to stay for the whole series to answer all those questions. But we will, I promise you, get to those questions, and it'll be well worth the journey, I promise. But for now, let me put a big bookmark next to all those questions and just say the next few weeks we're going to cover them. In fact, next week, we're going to ask, what about everything else in here? The rules and laws and commands and guidance and wisdom. Do we need any of it? Does any of it apply? That's week 2. Don't miss next week, okay? Then week 3, for all those who are thinking, wait. If love is all that matters, that sounds so hippie, like just love, like it just sounds so airy-fairy. It's just going to create chaos and lower people's morals. Don't miss week 3, where I'm going to show you that this one command actually raises the moral standards, especially for religious people. It raises the moral clarity on any person or community who chooses to agree with Jesus and focus on the singular command That's going to be a fun week. And we're also going to cover people's favorite question that they ask all the time. You'll never have to ask this question again. Is blank a sin? People love asking pastors that. Hey, just a quick question. Is blank a sin? Translation, by the way, is always, I really want to do this. So tell me how much of this I can do before I get in trouble. Okay, so don't miss week 3. And then week 4, we're going to bring it home and get super practical and make lots of space for you to apply all the different learnings from this series to help you, okay? So whether it's helping you get after it or helping you slow down or helping you make healthier decisions, it will be your choice. It'll be a bit of a choose your own adventure, but I promise this one thing we're talking about today is going to be so helpful for all of us. So with that said, back to today. Today, I need to deliver on the promise that somehow this whole tangent about singular demonstrative pronouns, this whole tangent about the one command to love as Jesus loved, somehow has an impact on your new year and all the decisions and all the questions and all the tensions and all the disagreements that you face every single day. That somehow this can help you dig through the clutter of life, navigate the demands, think through the things you should do and must do and shouldn't do, and all that, and actually find a unity way and a way forward. Because this one question can actually be asked, or this one command can actually be asked as a question. To know how we love as Jesus loved us, we can simply ask in any situation. We can ask it as a prayer, as a reflection guide, as a conversation starter. What does love require of me? What does love require of me? What does love require of me? And that question, in my opinion, is the single best guiding, forming, clarifying question ever for Jesus followers. This question reorients us. This question aligns us. This question pushes up against us. This question quickly reveals what is and isn't important, or what is and isn't our actual motivation for wanting something or saying something or doing something. This question acts like a referee when we disagree, and I'll give you some examples of how that plays out. I would go so far as to say there is not a single decision, priority, or quandary that you will ever face that this question does not impact. So I just want to actually just give you some real teeth to it, give you some examples and situations and decisions where decisions are required or priorities need sifting, and how this question, what does love require of me, actually helps clarify, sort through, and prioritize. So let's start with something people have a lot of questions about often: career decisions. Work can have so many questions and wonderments. Do you work full-time? Do you work part-time? Do I apply for that promotion? Do I change careers? Do I retire early? Do I work late tonight? Students, do I get a part-time job? Or where should I get a part-time job? Or should I focus more on this or that? Or I wanted to serve, all kinds of questions relating to work, right? And when those questions come up, there's a million thoughts that come into our mind, right? It's like, how much money will it result in if I do this or don't do that? What do my parents want me to do? What will my spouse approve? Or what do they want? What kind of lifestyle will this choice results in? What will my commute be if I say yes to this or say no to this? Will I have to give back the company truck? Maybe this decision will get me a company truck. Will I be able to retire early if I do this? Will I have to work later if I choose this option? I'll have more flexibility, or I'll have a more rigid schedule. Now, those are a lot of things to wade through and a lot of noise in a sense. And the simple question that we're talking about brings everything into focus. What does love require of me? A few years ago, a friend of mine was an executive in a massive company. And he began asking this question of himself to get clear on what he should do, what would be the most loving thing to do with his life. And as he looked at his gifting and his life stage and his circumstances, and as he's asking this question in prayer over and over again, he and his wife came to this conclusion that he should resign from his role. He took a job at a nonprofit. He was left with a portion of his initial salary. Did it eyes wide open, knew what this decision was going to cost. But in praying this and asking this question, he knew what it meant, and he resigned. And it was such a drastic thing. The VP of the company set up a meeting with him, and he's like, I need to understand why you're doing this. You are literally on track to be a millionaire in a few years. Why are you doing this? And he got to just explain. He's like, it's not the thing that drives me. And he got to share a little bit of the story. And now it's been over 15 years. He's never looked back. He chose to lose title, lose pay for the sake of love. And I actually personally know many people who've been impacted by the work that he and his family do. I know other people, in asking this question, they've taken on more work, or they've applied for certain promotions or sought a certain title with a certain influence because of a certain thing they felt called to do, Because as they asked the question in their circumstance, that is where that question led. And I know people in our church community right here, as they asked that question, they allowed a promotion to pass them up, or they took a shift they didn't naturally love because it freed them up to love in a different way. Some genuinely just needed to care for an aging parent or a high-needs child. Others to free up time to serve neighborhoods or serve their neighbors, friends, or community. This question can help orient you through all the clutter of work-related questions. Let me share a few other examples of the way that a question like this actually just infiltrates our lives. I'll share a few from my life in the most mundane of situations that might feel so unspiritual, and how this question has shaped our life right down to the details you'd never think about. I'm going to apologize in advance. I'm married and I have kids, so those are two big themes in my life. My point in sharing some of the stories I'll share right now is not to elevate those life circumstances, but simply to show you how this question invades every area of your life, and I only have one life to share, so I'll share mine. But first, just speaking personally, this question has helped us immensely in parenting decisions. It gives us the ability to dig through the clutter of all the demands on ourselves as parents. You know, the laundry's piling up, meal prep is behind, the house is chaotic, the kids are getting older, and we constantly, maybe you don't feel this, but I constantly feel like we're falling behind. There's things we have to teach them and impart to them and memories to make, and time's running out. Maybe you felt that too. And for those of you, just a little context, who haven't met Trifina and I, we're very different, okay? In many ways. I'm tall, she's short. I'm white, she's brown. I love staying in, she loves going out. I love documentaries, she loves comedy. I love being on time. Trifina loves comedies. So when planning our life and even what our family does and doesn't do, it has always been complicated for the two of us. Even before we had kids, that's always been that way. We'd come home from work and we'd have a little downtime, and Tri's like, do you want to snuggle on the couch and watch a movie? I'm like, you want to take every box out of the storage room and then sort and purge and donate and label everything and put everything back in, right? Talk about foreplay. We have always struggled to find common ground. Now, this question, though, when talking about parenting, has helped so much in how we make decisions with kids even more than ever. I shared a few months ago in a sermon on pain that this year was the hardest year of our life. Neither of us had capacity, any bandwidth, any rest. And you can imagine how two very different people would approach the dozens of parental decisions we face every day. Do we say yes to that invite? Do we go to that event? And naturally, we'd both have different feelings, and we're drawn to different things with the little margin and bandwidth we had. If we couldn't agree when we were childless and full of energy, how would we be able to make decisions when we were burnt out with too many humans relying on us? But as we learned to use this question, it made decisions so much easier. We could say, hey, I really want to fill in the blank, or I know you really want to fill in the blank, but I think the most loving thing we can do for our child is fill in the blank. Or to make it safe for them, I think we need to cancel this, or stop this, or sign up for this, but I think that's what love requires of us. Or we say, no, it's not something you want to spend money on, but I think, we should in this season because I think that would be the most loving thing we could do. And I got to tell you, because we agreed on the goal, we want everything that we do to flow out of the love of Jesus. It made working out details so much easier. Not instant, we'd still have to wrestle, but we had at least the same goalposts in mind that we're wrestling to get to. This question would help in all kinds of other areas you would never imagine how it would impact. Again, for an example from my life, exercise. What does exercise have to do with love? I'll give you an example back to my life this year. In asking this question, I began exercising. See, I personally love being active, but I always have a million things on the go, a million things to do, and I just personally could never justify exercise. But I'm also, here's a fun data point, a horrible human to be around if I don't have physical activity in my life. Just ask Trifina. I become impatient, restless, unfocused. I'm not present to those around me, especially in the hard times and the hard conversations. And the last thing you want from a father and a husband and a pastor is someone sitting down with you in a crisis being impatient, restless, and unfocused. It's unloving. And this year I realized if I'm gonna ask, what does love require me in all the different roles that I play in my life, one of the answers was making time for exercise. It makes me more patient, loving, caring, and a present individual. And then that one question impacted a whole bunch of other decisions that impact my marriage. Let me break it down for you. We're getting into the details here, right? So we just established if I'm gonna be a loving father, I need to exercise. When we looked at our life and the new schedule we had, and due to some of the things that changed over the last year, special schools that some of our kids now attend, and drop-offs and pickups at different parts of the city at the same time, my ideal window when we kind of played it out was like meal prep, exercise, and then we have dinner together. But that means I need to somehow get home from work well before dinner. But if I'm going to do that, I need to get up early and do some work in the mornings before the kids wake up. And if I'm going to wake up early, it means I need to go to bed early. I promise, stay with me. I'm getting somewhere. And if I need to go to bed early, I may only be able to watch one episode of Brooklyn Nine-Nine with my wife before bed on the couch. Now, that's a lot of detail, but I'm sharing it for a specific reason. Because for years, you might have a hard time believing this, but Tri and I had the same argument over and over again. She'd want to snuggle on the couch and watch TV in the evening, just next episode. And I always felt like the bad guy. I wanted to go off to bed after one episode. And I felt she was demanding too much, and she felt I didn't care. And Trifina would at times, I know this is really hard to believe, but she would at times express her frustration to me. Now, as we both, though, have settled into this question, what does love require of me? As we both have learned more and more about each other and ourselves and how we work and how we build capacity and how we each are uniquely gifted to love others, to love our family, to love each other, we've realized that there's a whole bunch of different things at play. And she's starting to understand this convoluted equation that is Mark. Loving father, husband, and pastor is not very loving, present, or patient, or kind, and pretty restless if he hasn't exercised. And she follows the dominoes through that convoluted cycle and realizes he's not getting up after an hour because he hates snuggling. He's actually choosing love just 5 steps away. In fact, she was the one that helped me realize this. Now she's the one encouraging me to exercise. She'll sometimes look at me and just be like, can you just go for a bike ride? Like just go. It'll be better if you go and then come back, right? She's helped me realize this. She'll turn to me after an episode and say, thanks for watching an episode. You have to get to bed now. And she's not saying that passive aggressively. She's saying it sincerely. Why? Because we both have a clear understanding of the goalposts, love. And she realizes there are some decisions we will make differently to get ourselves to that place. So long story short, asking that question has led me to prioritize exercise and other self-care habits. It's led me to champion things for her, championing things I would have in the past felt were a waste of time, or unproductive, or not the way I would do it. But I now realize she's filling up her tank or making room to love others in a way that she is uniquely wired to do. Isn't that cool? The way it plays out in your life will be completely different. You may ask this same question and you may end up exercising less. You may currently spend 3 hours at the gym. You may be building the best body you ever built. And as you ask this question, you come to the conclusion that love requires you potentially to sacrifice some gains, sacrifice some time at the gym, and make some time for loving and sacrificial relationships in other parts of your life, or a cause or a need or a relationship that needs investment. The question helps guide and clarify. It literally applies to everything. Another example is finances. This past year, Trifina and I had to make the biggest financial decision we've ever made in our lives, a decision that financially a few years ago we would have never expected to make. And if we were simply playing the long game on what has the better return on investment, we would have never made the decision that we made. But when we asked the clarifying decision and the clarifying question in the midst of the circumstances we found ourselves in, we found ourselves so aligned and ready to make a really hard financial decision because we were convinced love required it. Because this question acts like a referee when we disagree. Now listen, I'm not saying you don't need good financial know-how. You should talk to experts, learn about investing and savings and MERs and rates of return and all that. But before all that, this question will guide how you use that information. I go on for days. This question will help you navigate time management. What is important? What need not waste any time on? This question will help you say yes or say no or to consider things or not even waste time considering things. This question, what does love require of me, will, and we'll cover it for sure in week 2 and 3, raise the standard on how you love people. Students, this question is pivotal for your life. It will help you decide things like who to invite to the lunch table, how to respond to unkind words at school, peer pressure, how to spend and save your money, what to post and not post on social media, how to treat your siblings, how to respond to your parents. It can help you decide if running for student body president is a good idea. It'll help you wrestle through your real motives behind it. Asking this question will make your conversation with your friends so much richer. And so, youth, I'm excited that you're here for this series because this question works at any age, but it's great to learn it young. And yet, for the adults in the room, you're never too old to learn it. When you begin asking it, this question can lead to better self-care, to exercise or rest, to eat well or take a holiday, or even to work overtime. It may direct your money to places and people you never expected to give it to or direct it to. This question can take things off your to-do list or put things you never expected on your to-do list. This question can inform how you vote. In fact, you might be surprised how you vote after asking this question because Christ-like love doesn't just look out for yourself, but for the other. This question may be the reason you pursue a relationship or the reason you decide to stay single. Imagine if this question was being asked by everyone all the time. Imagine if your younger self had asked this question. Imagine if you asked this question when choosing a career, or when raising kids, or when dealing with that work challenge. Imagine if those who hurt or harmed you had been asking this question. This is why we're going to camp on it for the next 3 weeks. It's such a transformative question, and we're going to make lots of time to allow it to get inculcated into our lives. So today, as we close, I wonder if we can just sit with this question and practice it a little bit. A question you can literally ask dozens of times a day. I'm going to invite Nathan to come up and just create some space for us to be still and listen to the Holy Spirit. We can use this question as a prayer, asking Jesus to lead you, saying, Lord, what does love require of me? Maybe you're asking it for today. Maybe there's something today you're wrestling through, a decision that you're just trying to figure out. And this question is going to help you. Maybe it impacts how you spend time or who you spend time with today. Something you were planning on doing that maybe you're not going to do, or something you weren't going to do that maybe now you are going to do. Or maybe you're being still and thinking about your year. Maybe you've already mapped it out and you've got everything planned, but the thing you didn't ask was, what does love require of me? Maybe this is reorienting your year's plan. Maybe you're in the middle of a tense relationship challenge or a business decision. It's amazing how clarifying this question could be. So I'm just going to give you a few moments to be still and to invite the Holy Spirit to bring whatever it is to mind that the Holy Spirit wants to say when you ask this question, a question that just invites God to speak and teach you what God is like. As we wrap up today, I want to just bring a few things to your attention. Reminder, if you're new, welcome again. So glad you're here. Text News, the best way to just get connected and get your name on our radar so we can serve you in the best way that you feel. Have any questions you have, just text that number and we'll be in touch. And also pop by guest services if you feel comfortable. Say hi. We'd love to put a face to a name. And like Robin said, they got some freshly ground coffee or loose leaf tea just as a gift to say thanks for coming out. If you can, we sent a message out this week, a spare just under an hour to help us kind of move some of the stage decks. You got some muscle and don't have back issues yet. We'd love to just have you stay with us for a little bit. Just probably need about a dozen or so people to help us move some stage decks. And you'll just meet in the chapel, which is the room on your left, right outside these doors. And there's pizza. So Rachel will be really happy if there's a few that can help with that. Prayer teams are up at the front. They're going to be coming to the crosses there, Sharon. Hey, Sharon. And Brenda's there. Brenda would love to pray with you. Sharon would love to pray with you. Anything you're going through, anything that maybe came up in that time of silence, they would so love to pray with you. And next week, don't miss next week, where we're going to unpack how does the one command interact with all this, and I think you're going to love it. So don't miss next week. And can I just bless you? We sang the song this morning, where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is freedom. This question is the best question I know to invite the Spirit of God to move and lead and teach you in your life. And I'm telling you, it brings freedom. Trevina and I have experienced this year. So many times we look back on decisions where we're like, are we crazy? Was this a terrible decision? And we'd always just come back to, hey, it's what we felt loved required of us. And there's freedom and there's peace when we sit with that. So bless you with freedom, friends, as you step out on this adventure of asking, what does love require of me? Have a great week, friends. Thanks for joining us.